Bears' unpredictability makes them even scarier. A bear can appear calm one moment and dangerous the next. In the wild, an encounter with a bear can escalate into a life-threatening situation where the chances of surviving an attack are extremely slim. Subscribe to the channel for the best videos. The early morning sun painted the dense woods of the Adirondacks in hues of gold and green. The air was crisp and carried the scent of pine needles and damp earth. For Jake, a seasoned boar hunter from the south, this was the perfect setting for a hunt. He'd been dreaming of bagging a trophy boar in the Adirondacks for years. With his trusty rifle slung over his shoulder and a hunting knife strapped to his belt, Jake set off into the woods. He followed a well-worn deer trail, his eyes scanning the undergrowth for any sign of his quarry. The forest was alive with the sounds of birdsong and the occasional rustle of leaves. Hours passed and Jake began to tire. He'd seen plenty of deer tracks but no sign of a boar. Disappointed, he decided to head back to camp. As he turned around, he heard a sound that sent a shiver down his spine. It was a low, guttural growl followed by the sound of snapping branches. Jake froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He tried to make out the source of the noise, but the dense foliage obscured his view. Suddenly, a massive black bear burst out from behind a tree. The bear charged, its claws outstretched and its teeth bared. Jake raised his rifle, but before he could fire, the bear lunged at him. The impact was brutal, knocking Jake to the ground. A passing hiker found Jake's body later that day. While hunting can be a rewarding experience, it is important to always be aware of the potential risks. That hunters should take precautions to avoid encounters with dangerous wildlife, such as carrying bear spray and being mindful of their surroundings. They should also be prepared to defend themselves if necessary. In the end, the hunt that Jake had been so eagerly anticipating ended in tragedy. This story serves as a cautionary tale for all hunters. May his memory be a reminder of the importance of safety and respect for the wild. Story 2. Jack Turner had always been a man of adventure. Born and raised in the mountains of Colorado, he was no stranger to the wild. Over the years, his love for the outdoors had taken him across the globe, trekking through the Amazon, hiking the Himalayas, and now on a solo expedition deep into the dense forests of the Appalachian Mountains. At 45, Jack was in the prime of his life, an experienced outdoorsman who thrived on challenges and exploring uncharted paths. In early October 2024, Jack set out for a 2-week trek through a remote region of North Carolina's Appalachian wilderness. He armed with only the essentials: a sturdy backpack, tent, sleeping bag, provisions, and bear spray. He was confident that this adventure would be another notch on his belt of thrilling exploits. The weather was crisp and cool, the perfect time for hiking without the oppressive summer heat or the dangers of winter snow. For the first few days, Jack's journey was everything he had hoped for. The trail he followed wound through dense forests of towering trees. Streams trickled alongside him, and every now and then he would spot a deer or hear the distant call of an owl. The isolation was exactly what he had come for, just him and nature. On the 5th night of his journey, he set up camp near a quiet stream. After a long day of hiking, Jack enjoyed a meal by the fire, savoring the peace and tranquility around him. He stored his food in a bear-proof container and placed it a safe distance from his tent, as he always did. The night sky was clear, the stars shining brightly overhead. Feeling content, he crawled into his tent, zipping it closed, and drifted off to sleep. Around midnight, Jack was awoken by a soft rustling sound outside his tent. At first, he thought it might be the wind, or perhaps a raccoon scavenging for food. But the rustling grew louder, more persistent, and then he heard heavy breathing. Jack's heart rate quickened as he realized that something much larger was nearby. Sitting up slowly, Jack grabbed his flashlight and cautiously unzipped the tent, just enough to peer outside. His flashlight beam swept across the darkness and landed on a large, dark shape just a few feet away. A black bear, at least 300 pounds, was sniffing around his camp, its head low to the ground, searching for food. Jack's mind raced. The bear wasn't immediately aggressive, but it was dangerously close. He knew that startling it could provoke an attack, but he also couldn't let it continue to get closer to his tent. Slowly, he reached for his bear spray, his fingers trembling slightly. The bear paused, lifting its head toward the sound of his voice, and for a brief moment, it seemed like the bear would move on. But then, without warning, the bear lunged toward the tent, letting out a deep growl. Jack's instincts kicked in. He leapt out of the tent, sprayed the bear spray in the bear's direction. The orange mist filled the air, hitting the bear's face and eyes. The bear let out a loud snarl, backing away and pawing at its face as the burning sensation took hold. But the bear wasn't retreating as fast as Jack had hoped. It stood its ground, shaking its head violently and huffing, clearly agitated. Jack knew he couldn't outrun the bear if he decided to charge again, so he backed away slowly, keeping the canister of bear spray raised. Seconds felt like hours, but eventually the bear began to retreat, still growling in frustration. Jack watched as it lumbered off into the darkness, disappearing into the trees. His heart pounded in his chest, and he stood frozen for several moments, listening for any sign that the bear might return. When the forest finally fell silent again, Jack exhaled a long, shaky breath. The adrenaline coursing through his veins made him feel lightheaded. He knew he had narrowly escaped a potentially deadly encounter. For the rest of the night, Jack remained on high alert, sitting by his fire with the bear spray within arm's reach. Sleep didn't come easily, but he was grateful to be alive. The next morning, Jack packed up his camp and decided to cut his expedition short. The encounter had reminded him that, no matter how experienced an outdoorsman might be, the wilderness is unpredictable and wild animals are not to be underestimated. As Jack hiked back towards civilization, he reflected on the lessons he had learned from the encounter. He had done many things right, storing his food properly, carrying bear spray, and remaining calm during the attack, but there was always room for caution when dealing with wild animals. For those venturing into bear country, Jack had this advice: always be prepared for a bear encounter. Keep your food stored well away from your sleeping area, and make noise as you hike, especially in dense forests where bears might not hear you coming. But most importantly, carry bear spray and know how to use it. It can save your life. But remember, bears are wild animals, and no matter how much you prepare, you must respect their space and be ready for anything.